AskReddit by DVS Insanity. Anesthesiologists of Reddit. What was something you won't forget hearing from someone that was under? After an operation on a patient's neck, he woke up and yelled AHHHH, then grabbed his junk with both hands and was like, oh thank god it's still there, then immediately passed out again. He clearly had his priorities in order. I had an ovarian cyst removed a year ago and woke up from the anesthesia saying hand please, and making grabby hands with both my hands until the nurses finally came over and held my hands for about 5 minutes while I just smiled and tried to go back to sleep. I hadn't done that in a decade. I used to do it to my dad all the time as a kid to express that I wanted to hold his hand while I slept. Deleted. I ask a patient after surgery how he feels. He opens his eyes, stares me dead on and says with my fingers. Then he goes right back to sleep. This man has at least 2 kids. I woke up from gallbladder surgery confused as to why my mom wasn't there. I was 18 and looking for my mom. The nurse informed me I had cussed out my entire family and they sent them home and put me on a no visitor list, only for me to wake up at 2 AM with no memory, making them call my mom back. Another time I woke up and made horrifically inappropriate jokes. I told a nurse she was pissing me off because I didn't like the automatic blood pressure cuff. Another, I refused to listen to follow-up orders until I had a chicken sandwich. My negotiations were not met. I'm a real treat after anesthesia, but I get a lot of this done at the office my mom works at so she can warn them, lol. This is a huge fear of mine. That I'll have surgery and turn into a raging asshole when coming out. I'm an anesthesiologist. The best story was a 40-some-year-old woman for appendectomy, said while I'm giving the propofol to induce anesthesia. She said, oh I don't remember it tasting like that before. Slurred. I said, what does it taste like, since propofol doesn't usually elicit a taste reaction? She almost yelled DEEZ nuts, and was promptly under anesthesia thereafter. There have been other stories, but this one has the entire OR staff rolling laughing 4 minutes after she was under. Priceless Mayo. My aunt got rushed to the hospital for abnormal heart rate, but it wasn't a heart attack or stroke. But her heart was going at like 200 beats per minute or whatever it was. They had to put her under so they could shock her heart back to normal. As they are taking her under, the doctor says something like okay, in it goes, and she immediately quips with that's what she said. All the doctors and nurses busted a gut laughing and told my uncle when he got there. He just shrugged and said that's my wife for yap. I like your aunt. One summer I was home from college and my dad needed me to pick him up after his very first colonoscopy. He was nervous so I got there early. The nurse called me back and asked me to help wake him up, as they were having some trouble. I go back and am making chit chat. Oh dad, you've got those cool booties on. He raised his head a little bit to look at them, then yelled, booty call. He is a Presbyterian pastor. A moment I will treasure forever. Have you told him this, or is it a secret you're hanging on to? I have no recollection of this, but according to my mom, when she met me in the recovery room after wisdom tooth extraction, I was very eager to tell her something, but my mouth was full of gauze. So they gave me a pen and I wrote something on the surgical bib. Hours later, when I was back in reality, she asked me what was with the meow meows. My son, I had no idea what she was talking about, so she showed me the bib. It said, meow 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 meow. Meow 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 meow. Meow 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 meow. The meow mix theme. This was stuck in my head for a good solid decade and now it's back. Not that I'm complaining. My personal story. When I had my wisdom teeth out, I kept holding a fake camera up to my face saying you're beautiful and making clicking noises while I was under. I'm a professional photographer and my dental surgeon ended up booking a session with me a year later. Never miss a chance to network. Apparently, when I had surgery to remove my Bartholin's gland, A gland at the entrance of the vagina that can get an abscess. They asked me how I felt as soon as I was awake. I said I felt like I got fucked by an elephant and then I wanted to hug everyone. Wait, would you be willing to explain why you had to have surgery to remove this gland? This feels like something people should know about. I have had a vagina for a solid number of years and did not know that this was a thing. I'm glad you're okay. Only somewhat related, but my father had to know a lot of defense related security stuff for his last job, and once after he had surgery the doc said, wow, you had some interesting things to say, and to this day he doesn't know if he blabbed something to the doc or if the doc was just joking. The doc saying that really pissed him off. Not an anesthesiologist, but a story from my mom about me while I was under. I had a double jaw surgery scheduled for the 21st of April, 2016. The procedure was fine. I remember waking up halfway through it and getting more anesthesia. After the surgery ended, they put me into the hospital room to let the drugs wear off of me. I don't remember much of this time, so this comes from my mom, but she was sitting in the room with me, watching the news on the TV. I wake up and I'm quiet for a little bit before I start sobbing. My mom thinks it's because my mouth hurts. My mouth is wired shut, so I actively can't correct her with words, and have to try and write out, on paper, what I'm crying about. The news was broadcasting about Prince's death, and I was hysterical over the fact that I apparently killed Prince and that I had to turn myself in. I was working when I got a text from my little sister. I'm sorry, your husband is dead. She lives in Florida, me, Arizona. I got married recently and she's never talked to my husband. I was so busy at the time, but had to stop and was freaking out. Text her back. What question mark? She said, Prince is dead. I was in love with him my whole life. But I was thinking my real husband was dead. I still cried, though. Patient here. Came out of anesthesia and heard got eyes somebody that I used to know playing in the recovery room. I asked my so why they were playing it at like 10x the normal speed, and the nurse just goes, okay, so she's not ready to go home yet, lol. Lol, is that a thing? I guess your perception must be so delayed or intermittent that it plays fast in your mind. I once came out of anesthesia after an endoscopy, which can cause you to burp pretty much the whole day, and my fiancée asked how are you doing. I misheard and answered as though she said what are you doing? My answer was little burps, said very confidently. I also started crying on the way home because I wanted one egg. I never crave eggs. Is it common to get sedated for an endoscopy in the US? I had mine fully awake. They sprayed my throat with a numbing spray and told me not to swallow my saliva because I could choke. I replied got it and proceeded to immediately choke on my saliva, lol. I was told after surgery I said I love dogs and I want to eat the Taliban. At least you said it correctly. My aunt, who notoriously despises fast food, old Mexican lady whose food is as good as it gets, woke up and looked at my uncle and said, are you the sexy man that's gonna take me to McDonald's? If you knew her you would know that she would never say that. She has never lived it down. Did the sexy man get her some McDonald's? My husband woke up from anesthesia after a colonoscopy just after the doctor walked in. He didn't see the doctor and told me no blow job for you, then fell back asleep and ripped a big fart. The doctor looked at me and busted out laughing. He said not to be embarrassed. People say the weirdest things, but this one he'd remember. Just out of curiosity, do you own operator penis? A little girl was going under and she was holding her mother's hand. She reached out for my hand with her other, and as she was going out she joined mine with her mother's and said, you would be a nice daddy. I probably went beetroot red as I blushed. LMAO, my daughter does the same shit with her Krav Maga instructor and he's like 12 years younger than me. It's so embarrassing. She doesn't have the excuse of being on drugs though. She just really likes that instructor. My mom woke up from dental surgery and when we were leaving the surgeon's office, he gave her a goodie bag with floss and a toothbrush and stuff. and the whole way home she kept asking if she could eat the candy that the dentist gave her. Every time I told her there was no candy, she looked so heartbroken, like a little kid when their goldfish dies or something. Then we stopped at CVS on the way home and she wandered off. I found her in the candy aisle holding a giant bag of fun-sized candy, and when I told her to put it back on the shelf she dropped it on the floor and galloped away laughing at me. Buy her some damn candy SMH. Apparently when I was going under I told the anesthesiologist, don't mess this up, I know where you work. Did they mess it up and have to pay the price? Or did you successfully threaten them into performing a perfect operation? I was under general anesthesia to get my gallbladder removed. As I was being wheeled back through the double doors there was a giant TV screen that listed the surgeries going on. I was way too loopy to actually read it, but I swear I saw elbowectomy and started hysterically laughing over the idea of removing an elbow and being left with a floppy arm. Apparently what I actually said was elbow jello and then passed out. Elbow Jello, great band name. As I put someone out for a colonoscopy one time, the patient said, "You're cute. Are you gonna see my butt?" Then she was out. Edit for those of you asking. Yes, for colonoscopies we typically use deep sedation. This is in the US 99.9% of the time. This means propofol, the Michael Jackson drug. Most of us will give some lidocaine through your IV first. This helps prevent the burning sensation in your IV that propofol can sometimes give, and follow it right up with propofol to knock you out. Almost never need analgesics like fentanyl. Ah man. This brings back the embarrassing memory of being out of it enough during a colonoscopy to ask my doctor, what made you decide you wanted to look at butts all day, but unfortunately not out of it enough to forget about it later. Had my wisdom teeth out. When I woke up I was so excited to get my now extracted teeth and keep them as a souvenir. The nurse said I couldn't. She wheeled me out to the front door where my wife was waiting to load me into the car. She saw my disappointed face and asked, "What's wrong honey?" I turned and pointed to the nurse and said through my gore stuffed mouth, "This fucking bitch won't let me keep my teeth." My stunned wife apologized and the nurse explained that it's fine but they were a biohazard, to which I replied incredulously, "They were in my fucking mouth an hour ago." Edit. On a slightly related note, my mill has promised me that I can have her titanium hip after her cremation for a shifter in my car. Love that woman. I got mine in a little plastic tooth-shaped box. That fucking bitch stole your teeth. Not the anesthesiologist, but as a surgery tech working next to them. Patient, woozily, "Doc, will I still be able to integrate after this?" Gas passer, integrate? Like what? Patient, like the sum of f, x, from a to b when. Gas passer, pushes more milk of amnesia. What's the integral of EX? EX. More drugs. What's the integral of EX? CEO? We're good to go. I was giving a young female patient sedation for a routine colonoscopy, and as I pushed the propofol, sleepy medicine, it started to hit her. She sat straight up and yelled to everyone in the procedure room, "I shaved my arsehole for you," and she flopped down on her pillow and she was asleep. That was nice of her. My husband had knee surgery. After he woke up he half yelled half whispered "Apple juice ice." So the nurse gave him apple juice, several small cups full. He grinned like a toddler and said "apple juice" and immediately flopped back and went back to sleep for all of 10 minutes until he woke back up gasping that he couldn't breathe. His mom, who I had met maybe 1 or 2 times at this point, went up to the foot of his bed to grab a nurse in the doorway and he bolted upright. That man projectile vomited pure apple juice directly into her face, body, the wall, the door, hallway. I have never seen anything like it in my entire life. His mom stood there soaked in juice vomit and he just rubbed his eyes and said, "I feel better, bam." Back to sleep for another 2 hours lol. So, What you're saying is that I will never escape the gross side of parenthood, even when my children have spouses. A friend of mine was doing a type of spine procedure where they fixed part of a broken vertebrae under sedation. He said most people fall right asleep, but every now and then someone just won't fall asleep no matter how much IV anesthesia they get. This guy that he was doing the procedure on got so talkative that he was just going on and on about his favorite fishing spots while he was having his broken vertebra fixed. My friend kept asking him if he was in pain or anything, but the guy was like, I don't feel anything. Anyways, let me tell you about this place I base fish. Guy had the whole procedure awake despite lots of anesthesia and was happy as a clam. Woke up from nasal surgery strapped to the bed and a very disgruntled anesthesiologist standing over me. He asked if I was awake now and we talked for a minute. He asked me to do everyone a favor if I ever had surgery again and use the words wakes combative when describing how I come out of it. One guy said, before falling asleep, "Whoa. That feels like a dime bag." I'm sure the anesthesiologist that did my son's dental surgery will never forget him. Specifically, because he came out after the fact clearly trying very hard not to laugh to tell my wife about it. Kiddo was just chatting away while he was getting ready. Now my son is autistic and at the time had a very distinct way of speaking and pattern of emphasis along with a lisp. I literally cannot translate how he sounded talking into text. Edit. Thanks Yushmobsala for giving me a good idea of actually how to describe this. Imagine you had a soundboard of Butters from South Park that had all these words on it from vastly different conversations and strung them together into the sentences below and you'll have a pretty decent idea of it. He sounds a bit different than my son, but it's about as close as I can get. Anyway, just as they're getting ready to put him under he goes, "You're gonna need some hardcore nighttime medicine cause I have ADHD and doubt." Practically snoring even. They get to work, finish up and pull the mask off him. The literal second the mask was off his nose he bolts upright and finishes his sentence from however long earlier. That stuff don't work good on me. Windows XP reboot sound.